والسماء والطارق وما أدراك ما الطارق النجم الثاقب إن كل نفس لما عليها حافظ فلينظر الإنسان مما خلق من ماء دافق يخرج من بين صلب وترائب إنه على رجعه لقادر يوم تبلى السرائر فما له من قوة ولا ناصر. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونستهديه ونتوب إليه، ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى أهله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Amma ba'd. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, during the last week, there were two video clips that went around, and they reminded me of the need for us as human beings to remind ourselves all the time about one big disease of the heart which we should protect and beware of. One of the videos was from the UK, a member of parliament who was allegedly treating somebody in the community very arrogantly, very badly. He was a member of parliament. Due to that incident, we are informed that he has been suspended and it is being investigated. Similarly, interestingly, the one in Nigeria was also a member of parliament. We call them the honorables. He also behaved from the video very arrogantly against a cab driver who had brought him some things. He was very, very arrogant against him. He's also being investigated. So I thought it is important, as human beings, a lot of the time we fall into the trap of a shaitan. Because one of the major tools by which a shaitan sends us astray is arrogance. To be arrogant. And it is one of the worst diseases of the heart, because it leads to all other diseases of the heart. You can see that the importance of this is reflected. We always point to Sayyidina Luqman in the Quran, the wise one. He advised his children about certain things that they should be aware of. And one of them we find in Quran chapter 31 verse 18, where Luqman said, وَلَا تُسَيْئِرْ حَدَّكَ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ كُلَّ مُخْتَالٍ فَخُورٍ. He told his son, I'm advising you. He gave his son so many advices. But then he said, and do not swell your cheek in arrogance towards people. Don't puff up in arrogance towards people. And don't walk on the earth arrogantly. For Allah does not love any arrogant boaster. Arrogance is a very, very bad disease. It can bring you from grace to grass immediately. And this is what is happening to these two honorable people, and I think we should learn a lesson from it. You find in the Quran, Allah, and also in the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wants us believers to beware of arrogance, because it is the surest way to destruction. If you want the quickest way to destroy yourself, wear the garb of arrogance. It is manifested in various ways because of the short time. Many scholars have written about it. But I was really very impressed by Imam Ash-Shawkani, his explanation of 4 important ways by which arrogance manifests itself in a person. he notes that arrogance may be manifested in four main ways, and which will be the foundation of other evils. And he provides evidences from the Quran for each one of them. The first one by which a person can manifest arrogance is what he described as ta'ali. And this is a person believing that you are better than any other person. Maybe for one reason or the other, you find yourself, you believe that you are better. You are better, you are higher than any other person. And that is the exact manifestation of arrogance by ash-shaytan. Allah talks about this in the Quran. Allah says, Qala ya Iblis. Allah said, Oh Iblis. When Allah told Iblis to prostrate for Adam, he denied. He said, no, I don't want to. But Allah gave him an opportunity to defend himself. So Allah asked him, Ya Iblis, Ma mana'aka an tasjuda lima khalaqtu biyaddi astakbarta am kunta min al-ali. Why? I created you, I created everything. Why did you deny when I said that you should bow down for somebody I've created with my own hands? Are you being arrogant, or do you think you are the highest? Are you being arrogant, or do you think you are the highest? Hear what Shaitan said. Qal. Shaitan said, Ana khayrun minhu. Yes, I am better than him. Because khalaqtani min nar. You created me from fire. Wa khalaqtahu min tin. But you created him from clay. And Allah now told him, you see, Shaitan was in a very high place. He was in a very high place then, before then. In a Jannah, he was in a high place. Allah gave him, authority and also a honorable place. But what he did is, when he showed arrogance, indicated that he was better than Sayyidina Adam. Allah said, فَأَخْرِجْ مِنْهَا. Get out from it. فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيمٌ. You are now cast out. Get out from this. In another ayah of the Quran, Allah tells the same story. Allah says, قَالَ فَأْحْبِتْ مِنْهَا. Allah says, get out of Al-Jannah. فَمَا يَكُونُ لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا. It is not allowed for you to stay here and be arrogant. So right from the beginning, Allah has made it clear that arrogant people will not enter Al-Jannah. He said it is not permissible for you to be here in a state of arrogance. فَخَرُجْ إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ. Get out of it, you are from today belittled. So you are able to see that if you really want to belittle yourself very quickly, similar to what happened to those people, 200 people, they were belittled immediately. Where the gap of arrogance. So we should really, really be very careful. And it is in every one of us. In every one of us. We just need to be very, very cautious. A lot of the time, people want to provoke you, to be arrogant. And the way you can curb this is always, turn it into a laugh. Try and, turn it into a laugh, so that they don't push you beyond the limit. So prevent yourself from ta'ali, from seeing other people below you, no matter how high you are, because that is what brought ash-shaytan down. The second one, Imam Shawkani indicates, is al-istikbar. Al-istikbar, believing that you are greater, believing that you are greater or more powerful than all others and everyone, and Allah tells us this in the Quran. Allah gives us an example of the Ad. We all know the story of the Ad. Allah created them. They were really very powerful. They could build mansions in mountains. So they thought they were really, really strong and powerful than others, and they became arrogant. Allah says, فَأَمَّا عَادٌ. Remember the Ad. فَاسْتَقْبَرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. They became arrogant on earth, even though they should not have done that, because they felt that Allah has given them enough power. Allah says they became arrogant on earth. وَقَالُوا. And they said, مَنْ أَشَدُّ مِنَّا قُوَّةً. Who on the earth is as powerful as we are? They said there was nobody as powerful as them. But Allah said, أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا أَنَّ اللَّهَ الَّذِي خَلَقَهُمْ هُوَ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُمْ قُوَّةً. Don't they see that Allah, the God who created them, is much more powerful than them? And this is, a very important caution. And when I'll be coming to that, what can we do to prevent ourselves from arrogance? Even if you are the highest in a particular place, you should know that the Lord, Allah who created you and created all the other people, is higher and more powerful than everyone. Allah now says in the Quran, in relation to the earth, because of this arrogance, Allah brought them down. فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ رِيحًا صَرْصَرًا فِي أَيَّامٍ نَحِسَاتٍ. Allah said we wanted to show them, we brought them down. They felt that they were really very powerful, but Allah, belittled them just with the wind. Allah belittled them by bringing them serious wind, in a day that they could not really be able to save themselves from. So it's really very important that apart from ta'ali, we should also prevent ourselves from al-istiqbah, that is pomposity. The third one is al-istibdad. Al-istibdad. Al-istibdad, there are some on earth, because of their position, similar to those two people, because of their position, they feel that they have the right to tyrannize others. That because I'm powerful, I can do whatever. And this is what the Englishman will call impunity. The guy from Nigeria, he said, I will make you disappear in this country and nothing is going to happen. Serious impunity. Now, he said, I'm nothing. He said, I'm nothing. He said, the whole of this Nigeria, I'll make you disappear and nothing is going to happen. Don't you even think about the Lord who created you and created that person? This is what is called al-istibdad. Believing that you can tyrannize people without question. And that's your view. You are always right, that your view overrides that of everyone. Allah gives us an example of Fir'aun. Allah talks about Fir'aun. And Allah reminds the Bani Israel, say that is the Jainakum min al Fir'aun. Remember, we saved you from the people of Fir'aun. Yasumunakum su'al azab. He was treating you in a very bad way. We all know how, Fir'aun treated the Bani Israel. Killing their male children, and tyrannizing them. But what happened in the end? Allah brought him down. Allah brought him down easily. And he was swallowed by the Red Sea. So you are able to see that no matter the position you are, no matter how high you think you are on earth, you should remember that there is somebody higher than you, which is Allah. And the fourth one, which we should prevent, fourth manifestation, which we should prevent, according to Imam Al-Shawqani, is al-ghurur. That is being vain. Being vain, especially if you are rich. If you are rich, you believe that, wealth is everything. That you are vain that, what can money not buy? Because I have a lot of it, I can do whatever. And it gets into when you are rich to a certain level, it gets into your head. Sometimes look at our celebrities, look at the football players sometimes. They have sometimes they behave in a particular way. What is wrong with this guy? You think, but what is wrong with him? So being vain, gurur, that is, being deceived by your wealth. That, I can do whatever I want. I can be arrogant. Nobody can really stop me. And Allah gives us examples from Qarun. Qarun? The Quran says, because he had a lot of wealth, he said, إِنَّمَا أُتِيتُهُ عَلَىٰ عِلْمٍ إِنِّي. All this wealth, I was able to gather it because I'm special. Because of some talent that I have. And this is what enters people, not many of those people, rich people who misbehave. He said, I'm special. Because I'm able to make so much money. Why is not you able to do that? If I'm above you, they become arrogant. Allah now says, قال الذي آمن قال إنما أوتيته على علم إني. He said, I got all this wealth because of one special talent that I had. Allah now says, أَوَلَمْ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَهْلَكَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنَ الْقُرُونِ مَنْ هُوَ أَشَدُّ مِنْهُ قُوَّةً. Does he not know? Does he think that he is the only one who will have wealth? Does he not know that there have been people before him who had more wealth and power, and because of arrogance, Allah destroyed them. So it's really very, very important, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. And as I said, it is in every one of us. That tendency is there for shaitan to use. And if a shaitan want to, use you It is the arrogance. And when arrogance gets into a person, they behave like somebody who is mad. You know, and this is why English literature, the literature, if you read literature, they said, you know, those whom the gods want to kill, they first make them mad. You get the point? You lose your senses and you behave in a particular way that, you know, and you fall. So arrogance is the worst disease that can affect a person. So my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, it's really, really, really very important. You know, Allah told Qarun, La tafrah, inna Allah yuhibbul farihin. Because Allah has given you this world. Don't be pompous. Allah does not love those who are pompous. No matter what Allah has given you, you know, you should subdue yourself and subdue your arrogance. So there are 4 main points here. You know, while reading Shawkani, he indicated that any wealth that you have that makes you arrogant is actually poverty. Any wealth that you have that makes you arrogant, eventually it will make you poor. That's just the truth. He says, any wealth that makes you arrogant, remember that it is actually poverty. Similarly, any knowledge that makes you arrogant is actually ignorance. You know, and you see this, the other scholars, they think deep about these issues. You know, and he says, any wisdom that makes you arrogant is actually foolishness. Because if you have wisdom, you know that, you know, you don't have to go through that truth. And fourthly, says any position that you are that makes you arrogant is actually degradation. Because eventually that arrogance will bring you down. So it's really very, very, very important. You know, we should remember that the only Prophet ﷺ, on the authority of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. The Prophet ﷺ said, he will not, anyone who has an atom weight of arrogance in his heart will not enter Al-Jannah. فقال رجل, you know, the Sahaba, when they take the words of the Prophet very seriously, so one of the companions was afraid. He said, إن الرجل يحب أن يكون ثوبه حسن ونعله حسنة. You know, because when we talk about arrogance, some people, you understand it, you think that, well, arrogance is about dressing well. So the person said, oh Prophet, but amongst us, every man likes that his clothing be nice and also his shoes be good. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and the Prophet said, إن الله جميل. Allah is beautiful, يحب الجمال, and he loves things to be beautiful. What we mean is al-kibar. What we mean by arrogance is batar al-haq, you know, wa gamtun nas. What we mean by arrogance is denial of the truth. When people tell you truth, you are arrogant. You don't want to take, who are you to tell me? And looking down on people. This is what means arrogance. You know, denying the truth and looking down on people. This is what arrogance means. So it's really very, very, very important, you know, for us to try as much as possible to check ourselves. Many scholars have written about this. As I said, Imam al-Ghazali talks about it. He said we have to declare jihad. You know, he says we have to declare jihad on 12 enemies. You know, Imam al-Ghazali, he writes very philosophically. He said Allah created us, but within us, he identified 12 enemies. And one of them is arrogance. One of the enemy within us is arrogance. You know, he said we should declare jihad against it. We should fight against it. You know, and the Prophet was referring to, you know, and when the Prophet, the Sahaba just came from a very big war, jihad. You know, and the Prophet said, you know, but the jihad you are just coming from is jihad al-asghar. That's a small jihad. The jihad al-akbar is your own souls. You know, the bigger jihad is you fighting against the enemy within you. And one of the biggest enemies is arrogance. So we should try as much as possible, you know, to prevent it. We should think about the consequences, both in this world Arrogance has a negative consequence. As I said, it will bring you down. People will, desert you. People will just desert you and you'll be on your own. Especially in this time of world that we are. But in the hereafter, Allah says, there will be a more serious consequences for those who are arrogant. Because you find that even those who do not worship Allah, it is arrogance that makes them not worship. They feel that, me to be putting my forehead on the ground? No. That is the highest arrogance. And Allah says, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. Allah says, I will deny those who are arrogant on earth. I will deny them of the senses to be able to appreciate my signs, my ayat. And Allah had already said this in Surah Al-Baqarah. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٍ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. Marada. Now, because the disease of arrogance is in their heart, Allah then increases it. Therefore Allah says, all those who are pompous, who are arrogant, I will not make them to see the guidance in my ayat. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا. No matter, even when they see clear signs like this, they will not believe in it. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. When they see the right guidance like this, they will not follow it. وَإِنْ يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيِّ يَتَخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. But when they see the wrong way, that is what they will take as the right way. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. It is because, arrogance has entered their heart. And no matter what you tell them about the signs of Allah, they will belittle it. So it's really very important for us, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam, that we should, especially those four manifestations through which arrogance manifests itself, we should beware of it, control ourselves, and try to be humble. And may Allah make it easy for every one of us. Ibadallah, astaghfiru rabbakum innahu kana ghaffara. عباد الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى أهله وصحبه أجمعين. In the second part of my khutbah, I want to remind you about an hadith by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu قال. He says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is hadith Qudsi. The Prophet said, قال الله عز وجل, that Allah the Most High has said, Al-Kibriya'u ridai, pride is my cloak. Allah said pride is his own cloak. Wal-azamatu izari, and greatness is my robe. Pride and greatness, Allah says, they are the robes of Allah. فَمَنْ نَازَعَنِي وَاحِدًا مِّنْهُمَا قَذَّفْتُهُ فِي النَّارِ. Anybody who competes with me in either of these two things, I will throw him in hellfire. You cannot compete. Allah is the greatest. You cannot compete in proud or greatness with Allah. Allah says anybody who competes with him, that I am the all and all, Allah says he will throw him in hellfire. So it's really very, very important. We should beware, no matter how high we are. Now, how do we prevent? The ulama has made a lot of recommendations on how we can prevent ourselves from arrogance. We should understand the concept of tawheed and takbir. A lot of the time, it is in our nature as Muslims. It has become nature for us. Sometimes we don't think about it. Anything that happens, we say Allahu Akbar. Anything, but we don't think about it. He says, if you think about, you understand the concept of takbir. That is what it tells you. That you are not great at all. Greatness belongs to only Allah. But a lot of the time we just say Allahu Akbar and we forget. We don't actually know what we are talking about. So it's really very, very important. Shaitan says, one of the ways by which you can prevent, understand the concept of takbir when you say it. That Allah is the greatest. You are nothing. Then the second one is this: reflect over other creatures which Allah has created. Reflect over all the creatures which Allah has created. Allah indicates, Allah talks about this in many parts of the Quran. Sometimes we want to see ourselves as the biggest creature. Allah said no. Do you think you are the greatest? Look at the heavens. that we created. You know, so Allah, because Allah submitted everything to us, we think we are the greatest. So we have to reflect about other creatures of Allah, and we should seek an increase in ourselves in knowledge. If you are really ingrained in knowledge, that will control you. As Imam Shafi'i said, Imam Shafi'i, you know, he indicated, he said, كُلَّمَا أَدَبَنِ الدَّهَرِ أَرَانِي نَقْصَ عَقْلِي. He says, anytime, you know, life experience teaches me, you know, it shows me that, you know, what I think that I have a lot of brains, a lot of intellect. When I see things, when life teaches me, I know that my intellect is really very low. You know, and he said, وَكُلَّمَا ازْدَدْتُ عِلْمًا زَادَنِي عِلْمًا بِجَهْلِي. Anytime my knowledge increases, it teaches me that I don't know anything. You know, so it's really very, very important. By ingraining ourselves in knowledge, it helps us to limit ourselves. And the fourth one is just be humble. You know, just decide to be humble, because it is the sunnah. It is the sunnah of the, these people, they'll say, just do it. Just be humble. Just decide, well, look, I want to be humble. Because it is the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ said that, the Prophet said in Hadith Qudsi, أَوْحَى إِلَيَّ أَنْ تَوَادَوْا حَتَّى لَا يَفْعَلْ أَحَدٌ عَلَى أَحَدٍ. Says, you know, God inspired it in me. This is why I'm really very humble. The Prophet, he said, Allah inspired it in me that, you know, you should all be humble, so that one of you will never be arrogant against the other. You know, so it's very, very important, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. Based on these videos that I saw, I thought I should remind myself and remind you, so that we can curb the tendency of arrogance in each one of us. May Allah make it easy for every one of us. We have a few announcements. فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك فإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت وأقم الصلاة. والسماء ذات الرجع والأرض ذات الصدع إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل إنهم يكيدون كيدا وأكيد كيدا فمهل الكافرين ومهلهم رويدا. العصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.